Hi, this is Rudy Jones of PalmettoStateBaseball.com. Welcome to the March 4th, 2024 edition of the Palmetto State Baseball Podcast. This is my fifth podcast of the 2024 college baseball season. I do this as part of my coverage of college baseball in South Carolina. I offer schedules, scores, rankings, and other news about all 33 state teams. Every day there's a game. I pick a player of the day from a state school, and this year I'm picking a game of the day when I find one worthy of extra attention. I provide updates on X, formerly Twitter, at the handle Palmetto Base. Drop me an email at rudyjones@palmettostatebaseball.com or send me a message on X. Listener interaction helps me know if I'm doing this for anyone other than myself. I post schedules daily at palmettostatebaseball.com. There's also a state calendar of games at the bottom of the page that covers the entire season, and it also goes back for several seasons with the results you can look back for. If you see me at a game, please come say hi. I'll probably be wearing a blue cap with a Palmetto Tree State emblem on front and the words PalmettoStateBaseball.com embroidered on the back. I'll also probably have the Coke Zero in one hand and a phone updating the scores in the other. If it's not a phone, it'll be a scorecard. If you like my coverage of college baseball in South Carolina, please become a follower of this podcast and invite others to listen to and like the podcast too. Also, please tell them about the PalmettoStateBaseball.com website. All of my coverage, and you'll get your money's worth, is free. If you enjoy my work to publicize this great sport of college baseball, I invite you to attend church with me at Reedy River Baptist Church, US 25 North between Travelers Rest and the Furman University Golf Course in Greenville County. Worship time is at 10:30 on Sunday mornings, and we're usually out by 11:45, just about in time to make it home for the first pitch of your favorite team's noon video stream. We're even close enough to make it to the Latham Stadium on the Furman campus for a noon first pitch, if the school hadn't dropped baseball. $40 million for improvements to Timmons Arena for basketball, and they can't come up with some coin for baseball? I'm disgusted. If you wonder why things fall silent for a couple of hours on Sunday nights regarding updates, it's usually because I'm involved at something at church. The big story in the state last week was Clemson's two-game sweep of South Carolina in their two meetings. One off-the-field observation. I was a sports writer in South Carolina for more than 40 years before the Greenville News paid me to go away in 2012. One constant during that time, and it has continued since then because I've done some freelance work at both places, was the great baseball support given by the media relations departments at both Clemson and USC. Gamecocks announcer and former player Tommy Moody died last October. When the USC radio crew got to the position at Doug Kingsmore Stadium on Sunday, they found a bouquet of roses, and the media card designation spot included the words, "In loving memory, Tommy Moody, father, son, Gamecock." It was a classy move by Clemson, and I'm assuming baseball media relations czar Brian Hennessy was at the forefront. Speaking of Brian Hennessy, Clemson put out a hilarious video for opening day a few years back with Brian involved. Do a YouTube search for Hennessy, opening day, Clemson. Back to the field. Both Clemson-Carolina games were dandies. I honestly believe it's the most intense college baseball rivalry in the country because this state is so small and the schools are relatively close together. The Tigers won both games 5-4, of course. First one coming on Andrew Chufo's walk-off homer in the 12th, Saturday at Segra Park. To me, the difference in the series was that Clemson took advantage when South Carolina left an opening. USC had multiple opportunities to take command of Sunday's game in the early and middle innings, but couldn't do it, and the Tigers came back. What was scheduled to be Game 1 of the series was rained out in Columbia on Friday night. Officials are working to reschedule the game. Unless there are some other adjustments made, a check of the schedules for both schools suggests that there are 3 Tuesdays in April that should fit with a minimum of disruption if they want to make up the game then. Regardless of when or if that game gets played, Tigers fans will have bragging rights for the next year unless there's a rematch in the postseason. Before the series, Clemson fans were complaining about playing the neutral site game at Segra Park, home of the minor league Columbia Fireflies. I have only the video webcast to go by, but it did not appear that South Carolina had an overwhelming majority of the fans there. Speaking of the webcast, the production quality of that Saturday game was roundly criticized on social media. I had no problem with them using Clemson's radio feed for the audio on the ACC Network Extra videocast. I think William Qualkenbush does a fine job when he's filling in for Don Munson, who was at the Clemson Notre Dame basketball game on Saturday. There were several missed plays on camera, some bad camera change timing, and some other issues. But hey, it was on TV. I can remember many years ago when it took a lot of work just to get a radio broadcast network going for the NCAA games at either Clemson or Carolina. Before that, in my early newspaper days, we had to wait 4, 6, or 8 minutes for a telecopier, think like a primitive fax machine, transmission to come through to find out a winner at a baseball game, and there was always the chance the transmission was going to come in garbled and you had to redo it. Another 4, 6, or 8 minutes to wait. There were no such glitches on Sunday at Doug Kingsmore Stadium in Clemson. Clemson apparently had all of its equipment available after some single camera games earlier in the season. They put out an excellent production for their baseball games. After the series, some Clemson baseball fans used social media to get on USC outfielder Dylan Brewer, who transferred from the Tigers, and Gamecocks assistant Monty Lee, who was previously head coach at Clemson, of course. I don't know the reasons Brewer decided to leave Tiger Town, but I know Lee was, in essence, asked to find work anywhere other than Clemson. Monty's always been cordial to me in our few interactions, and he used to go hunting with my cousin, who is a diehard Clemson fan. Monty's okay in my book. One other thing. Umpires apparently warned USC's Ethan Petrie about something he said or did as he was rounding third base on his ninth inning homer on Sunday. I don't pretend to know the circumstance, but I saw at least 2 other instances last week where umpires felt the need to insert themselves into what was going on. In both cases, a batter was ejected for a bat flip after a home run. Now, I'm okay with a bat flip as long as it's not too exaggerated or tossed toward the opposing dugout. One guy I saw last week carried the bat almost to first base before his flip. Umpires have a difficult job, and the restrained behavior common to players in the past has given way to more demonstrative celebrations. I'm not a big fan of a player yelling at the opposing team or of the dugout emptying to greet a player at home plate after a home run, unless it's a game ender. But if benched players stay near, say, the batting circle, I'm okay with that. Now, if you kids will be so kind as to get off my lawn, we can get back to my podcast. As big as the Clemson-Carolina series was, there were lots of other good games in state last week. Coastal Carolina extended its winning streak to 8 games with a 3-game sweep of Liberty. I guess I was just oblivious to the fact, but Liberty and Coastal baseball fans don't care for each other very much. The weekend's events won't soften the hearts of Flames fans either. Coastal scored 3 runs in the 9th on Saturday to walk off with an 8-7 win. I tuned in the video stream in the 9th to catch the tail end of a dispute between Liberty coach Scott Jackson and the umpires regarding apparently a hit by pitch. He then came out to argue a ball call on the next batter, and he was tossed. I think it was the hit by pitch still festering with him. Things went even worse for Liberty on Sunday. Trailing 5-2 entering the 7th inning of the opener, Coastal scored 3 runs in the 7th to tie and added 7 in the 8th to win 12-5. Speaking of 7, Coastal was a 7-0 shutout winner in the series finale. The Grand Strand was anything but grand for Liberty. Down the coast, College of Charleston coach Chad Holbrook probably wishes games were 7 innings instead of 9, at least last week. The Cougars entered the weekend series with Nebraska 7-0, but lost the first 2 games at Patriots Point when the Huskers rallied in the 9th inning. They were not ahead in Game 3. In the 9th inning of Game 3, they were only tied. But yet again, Nebraska had another rally and scored 2 runs to sweep the series. Winthrop pitcher Riley Hughes has lived up to his name in his last 2 starts. He went 7 2/3 shutout innings against Maine last week, allowing 1 hit and striking out a school record 20. Throw in 7 shutout innings, allowing 1 hit a week ago, and he has allowed 2 hits and struck out 33 and 14 2/3 innings. That's some pretty good baseball pitching. USC Upstate won 2 of 3 against Penn. Grant Sherrod hit 2 home runs and drove in 8 runs in Sunday's win. Teammate Kobe Knopf, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, also homered twice, giving the Spartans multiple homer games by teammates for the first time in the NCAA Division history of the school, Division I history. Walford scored 29 runs in the middle game of his 3-game sweep of Fordham. The Terriers are playing well right now. Moving to NCAA Division II teams, Limestone is the hottest team in the state on any level, having won its last 9 games. 2 years ago, Coach Brett Harker went 4-41 in his first season. Looks like things are turning around in Gaffney. This year's squad has scored 10 runs or more 8 times during its 9-game streak. Davis Turner is hitting .431, while Cyan Barnett, Noah Love, and Winston Park all have 4 homers apiece. After getting drubbed 25-1 at its Peach Belt Conference opening series opener against NCAA Division II number 16 Georgia Southwestern, USC Beaufort got a pair of walk-off wins in Sunday's doubleheader to take the series. Number 2, North Greenville pounded Southern Wesleyan twice on Saturday. In Game 2 on Saturday, Reese Fields pitched a 7-inning, 15-strikeout no-hitter. Fields struck out 7 of the last 8 batters he faced, and Coach Landon Powell, who's caught a perfect game in the major leagues, was effusive in his praise of the way Fields pitched. The going was much tougher for North Greenville on Sunday in Central as they fell behind in the middle innings and needed 2 runs in the 9th to win 10-9. Coker had a good weekend, winning 2 of 3 at Wingate in South Atlantic Conference play. Newberry ranked as high as 12th nationally in the preseason, but they've had little to go right for them so far this year. Findlay swept the Wolves at the Smith Road Complex over the weekend, dropping Newberry to 4-14 with a 5-game losing streak. Speaking of struggling, Claflin lost all 3 games in its Peach Belt Conference series at USC Aiken and has now lost 15 straight. Coach Jalen Bledsoe was a late selection to coach the team in January after Scott Nestor left to become an assistant coach with the Yankees minor league teams. And it's been a hectic situation for Coach Bledsoe as he's tried to get things going in Orangeburg. Losing 15 in a row doesn't seem all that bad, though, when you compare to what Lemoyne Owen is going through. Benedict swept the Magicians in Memphis over the weekend, dropping Lemoyne Owen to 0-6 this year. The Magicians have lost 60 consecutive games since beating Tuskegee on March 21st, 2022. They went 0-36 last year and lost their final 15 games in 2022. Moving back in state, among junior colleges, Florence Darlington Tech had another good week, winning 4 games, including 3 games in its final weekend of the Sting Rim Invitational. They're now 17-5, and they moved up to 13th in this week's NJCAA rankings nationally. My team of the week for February 26th through the 3rd, I forgot to do some editing, was Limestone. How could it not be? My weekly rankings did not change too much from the previous week. The Division I rankings remained the same, with Clemson, Carolina, Coastal, College of Charleston, and Wofford leading the way. In Division II, I left North Greenville, Lander, and Francis Marion at the top, but jumped Limestone from 9th to 4th. Coker remained 5th after that good weekend in Wingate. Morris and Voorhees remained 1-2 in my rankings for NAIA and National Christian College Athletic Association schools. Among junior college teams, it's Florence Darlington Tech, Spartanburg Methodist, and USC Lancaster at the top. One other note about junior colleges. USC Union had been providing video feeds of its home games through Mevo, but a stray foul ball at the Jonesville ballpark a couple of weeks ago apparently nailed the part of the net where the camera was located. I couldn't find a video cast this past weekend. Hopefully they'll be able to get it back up at some point. So, on to this week. There have already been some adjustments. Erskine's Tuesday game with Mars Hill has been moved from Due West to Mars Hill, and they're swapping locations with their April 9th game, so that'll now be at Due West. Charleston Southern's Wednesday game with Penn has been moved up to 3 o'clock. That completes a 2-game series. Winthrop's Tuesday game at NC State has been postponed, but they have not announced a makeup date yet. Remember, I have a season-long schedule in the calendar at the foot of the page at PalmettoStateBaseball.com, and I'll update it as I learn of changes. On Tuesday this week, South Carolina plays host to the Citadel in the first of 2 meetings, and USC Upstate is at Coastal in the first of 2 games, and the only other meeting of in-state teams on Tuesday. College of Charleston plays host to Liberty as both teams try to forget last weekend, while Presbyterian entertains Western Michigan, which was at Floor Field over the weekend, and Penn opens that 2-day series at Charleston Southern. Team of the week, Limestone has a challenge at number 2 North Greenville. Lander is at Cochran, the only other pairing of in-state teams on NCAA Division II. If your taste run to Georgia teams, UGA and Georgia Southern are playing Tuesday night at SRP Park in North Augusta. On Wednesday, Clemson has a visit from Kansas State, Davidson's at South Carolina, and the USC Upstate, Coastal, and Penn Charleston series concludes. That USC-Davidson game starts at 3 so that the fans can get over to the basketball game against Tennessee later that day in Columbia. Also on Wednesday, Lander is at Limestone and USC Aiken is at Newberry. On to the weekend. Clemson entertains UNC Greensboro. South Carolina is at home against Longwood. Michigan, is at Coastal Carolina, and Penn continues its sojourn down I-26 at College Charleston. Also, Wofford plays host to Lafayette. Rider is at USC Upstate. Valparaiso is at the Citadel, and former Lanier coach Kermit Smith brings his Appalachian State Mountaineers to Winthrop. This week marks the first time this season that one of the state's Division I teams has left the borders for a weekend. Charleston Southern is at SoCon favorite Sanford in suburban Birmingham, and Presbyterian has single games against Jackson State, Memphis, and Butler in Memphis. On to Division II, North Greenville has a Conference Carolinas home game against a pesky Mount Olive program. State matchups include Southern Wesleyan at Erskine and Newberry at Coker. The region schedule begins for NJCAA Region 10 teams on Saturday. Florida Strong's Tech is at home against USC Salkehatchie. USC Union is at Spartanburg Methodist, and USC Sumter is at defending region champion Gaston College, which happens to be ranked number 2 in the nation. Each series consists of Saturday and Sunday doubleheaders. With Lewisburg moving from Division I to Division II in Region 10, there are now 7 teams in Division I, so one team will have a region bye each weekend. USC Lancaster has that bye this weekend, but they face a road test at number 6 Georgia Highlands, which is coming off a 4-game sweep of USC Salkehatchie. The second weekend of the First Pitch Invitational, hosted by Michigan State, takes place at Fluor Field. Western Michigan returns to compete with the Spartans for a second straight week, with Western Carolina and Virginia Commonwealth completing the field. VCU is coached by Upstate native and former Clemson player and assistant coach Bradley LeCroy. Florida State used a 3-0 run through last week's First Pitch Invitational to jump into the national rankings this week. 2 games are scheduled for Friday and Sunday, and 3 on Saturday. Once again, Furman fans orphaned by the demise of the Paladins baseball program have a place in town to go see Division I college baseball. Last week's games were streamed live for free through the Greenville Drive's YouTube channel. They're scheduled to be streamed again this week, and I suspect Dan Scott, the hardest working man in broadcasting, will be doing the play-by-play honors when the games don't conflict with Furman's men's basketball games in the Southern Conference Tournament in Asheville. Just like with NCAA Division I teams, other baseball squads from other division levels on colder climes love the Palmetto State early in the season. At least 6 teams are competing in the Spartan Southern Classic at Lexington County Baseball Stadium beginning Friday and continuing through the entire next week. I know a bunch of colleges play at the Ripken Experience in Myrtle Beach every year, but I've never been able to find a complete schedule, so I don't try to keep up with them. This is the 5th podcast of the 2024 season. If you like this podcast, please follow and share a link with your baseball fan friends. If you like PalmettoStateBaseball.com's coverage of college baseball in South Carolina, please let me know. Email me at rudyjones@PalmettoStateBaseball.com with comments or criticisms or any kind of suggestions to improve my coverage. You can also comment on any post on the website. I want your input to help me shape my coverage to the best level of the greatest game God ever allowed to be invented. Like all my podcasts, I'm inviting anyone in the Greenville area of South Carolina to come worship with me at Reedy River Baptist Church, 871 North 25 Bypass between Travelers Rest and the Furman University Golf Course. Worship time is 10:30 on Sunday mornings. Our worship style is mostly traditional. Our pastor is the Reverend Josh Slatton. I hope you will find out that we are a friendly church and will want to get involved in other aspects of our church life, such as Bible study on Sunday mornings, Sunday nights, and Wednesday nights. If you're in the Chester area and looking for a church to attend, my friend Jeff Phillips is at West Chester Baptist Church in Chester County. Wherever you are, there's a good Bible-believing church near you. God loves you like most fathers love their children, and He wants to have a relationship with you. Thanks again for listening to the March 24th, 2024 episode of the Palmetto State Baseball Podcast. This is Rudy Jones of PalmettoStateBaseball.com saying, it's a beautiful day for baseball. Let's play two.